All right, good evening, everybody. At this time, if you're able to, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this time, I will open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address the board, please just state your name, address, adhere to our 5-minute policy, please, and refrain from using any student or faculty member by name. All right. If not, I will close the first hearing and privilege of the floor and remind everybody that we will have a second one towards the end of the meeting. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Superintendent Swartz.
So just two brief things I want to comment about here. The first is it's that time when we would register for convention, which is being held October 20th to the 22nd. Depending on how many of you might choose to go to convention, which is in New York City this year, we actually have a board meeting on the 21st. So if we typically, the whole group does not go, but I would like you to put that in your minds for the next couple of days, and then Jill will be reaching out to see if you have any desire to be at convention in person in October. So that's thing one. The second thing is I wanted to let the board know we sent the letters out to the parents of Glenville 5th graders asking if they were interested in moving to a different school for September. We've had one response of someone who'd like to talk about it. That was today, so I will reach out to that person. But that is also in the works. And that's it for me today. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Moving on to our reports and updates. Legislative, Ms. Furnish is not here. She did not report anything to us. PTA Council, Mr. Singh is ill tonight, but he did email us that the next meeting is September, and then we'll have a report following that. Audit Committee, I know Drew sent the Audit Committee members an email that we do have a meeting at the end of September, so make sure those in the Audit Committee look at that and respond to that one. Board of Education Policy.
In June, we handed Susan the corrections for 7,000 through 9,000, and the only ones that aren't finished up at this point are 4,000 to 69.99. So that will be our SMART goal for this year, specifically to do 4,000 to 6,999, and then also to try and get the corrections made so the board can approve all the corrections.
Beautiful, thank you. Board of Education goals, obviously we have one that we will do, and then we are going to discuss those on the 12th, I think it is, of September, and then to approve them and get them in motion the 26th, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I just remind folks, if you have a suggestion, please send it to me or let me know like Pam just did, so that we have whatever the full complement is on that meeting.
Beautiful. All right. If I can get a motion and a second, please, for item number 6 to accept the fiscal report of 23-24.
I'll make a motion that we accept the fiscal report for 23-2024 as submitted.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, comments?
Looks good.
Looks good.
So this is the report that'll precede the external audit, which commences in a few weeks from Weston Company. The numbers that you see in your packet will closely reflect that what the auditors come up with. There shouldn't be very many changes in material. So we're able to finish very favorable. Tonight, if you approve the repair reserve resolution for $250,000, we'll be at 3.91% on the unrestricted. The state allows you 4%, so slightly be under that. The variances that you saw before you show us we underspent by 4.83%, and we had favorable revenue of 3.46%. But if you look beneath those numbers, the revenue is really only 1.5 when you take out interest income, which was $800,000 favorable, and you're not going to see that again. Rates are coming down, so that was fortuitous, and I explained that in the previous 3 projections. And we also received some favorable refinancing revenue, what they call bond premiums, and also we got a refund on a dormitory authority borrowing. So that contributed about $500,000 of one-time revenue, but you also approved me putting that in the debt service reserve. So it went in and it came out into our restricted, and that'll help us pay off some bonds and mitigate debt service going forward. So when you take away the one-time events like that, we're really only 1.5 favorable, so very tight on the revenue. The expenses were almost 5%, 4.83, but if you take out the grants, which gave us $700,000, and some favorable activity on out-of-district placements for special ed, which I hold back on, you're really only at 3.5%. So those are tolerable, or you'll hear the auditor say very acceptable variance levels. So it's a strong fiscal position once again. So I'll welcome any questions. I did try to write succinctly in the narrative to you so you can follow where we are, where we've been, how we got there. And I gave you all the detail you need to if you want to do what I do.
No, I'm good there. Nice job, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Drew? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I get a motion for items 7 and 8, please, to approve classroom rental and ancillary services agreement with BOCES.
I move that we approve the rental and auxiliary services agreement with BOCES and the district learning classroom rental agreement with BOCES as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or comments on this one? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Or abstain? So moved. Motion a second, please, to adopt the Foothills Council Constitution and bylaws.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the Foothills Council Constitution and bylaws.
Thank you. A second.
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Emily can take it.
All right. Thank you both. Any questions or comments on this? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I can get a motion and a second, please, for resolution item number 10.
I'll move that we accept and appropriate the gift and donations from various community members in memory of Nicholas Siscone as submitted.
Thank you. And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you both. Any questions on that or comments? So thank you very much, everybody. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion and a second, please, to appoint interim administration for the district?
I'll motion to accept and appoint intern administrator for the district.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved, and welcome back. I get a motion and a second, please, for item number 12. Excuse me.
I'll motion to increase the repair reserves fund.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Pam. Anyone have any questions, comments on this one? All right. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Before we move on to 13 and 14, we are going to table under 14, item number 27, under the football section for a varsity assistant, so that will not be voted on this evening.
I will move communications A through C, staffing 1 through 32, tabling 27B, the football volunteer. The placement of students with disabilities, and the minutes from the July 22nd meeting as submitted.
Thank you, Jan.
I'll second.
Thank you, Kim. Questions, comments on that? That's a lot in there. Beginning of the school year. All right, if no one has anything, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Moving on to routine business. Pam moved both of those. We voted, so we're okay there. Moving on to other business. Ms. Carbone.
Yes. I was appalled, to say the least, when I was sitting here and heard the architects saying that their plan was to demolish Buchendall School. I called the Glenville historian. She has been in contact with the Schenectady County historian and the Scotia historian. Unfortunately, the binder that they had on the Buchendall School with all the information is missing. So they looked around to see what they could find. And I just have a little bit of information that might be interested. The school that it replaced was a one-room schoolhouse that was built in 1825 and was used until 1914. In 1914 and 1915 is when they built Buchendall School. Buchendall is a very unique architecture. There's nothing like it in this area. It's a 3-room schoolhouse. Kindergarten and first grade were on the upper level, and the 2 rooms on the second floor were for second and third grade, and 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. The building was used until 1953, and that was right around the time that the Central School District was formed. The Scotia Central School District was formed in 1950. And they built Glen Warden, Glendale, Lincoln, and moved all the kids down into that area, all the elementary schools. There were still a couple other schools that were used at that time that are now gone, but and McKeel was the high school back at that time. The building itself, the Buchendall School, is eligible for historic status. This is according to the Cultural Resource Information System in New York. In the 1990s, there was a committee that was formed to try and save Buchendall School because it was just being used as storage. I don't know whatever happened with that committee, but I know that the Board of Education decided to have, instead of demolishing that building back like 20 years ago, decided to have the building cleaned out. They took all the stuff that was in storage and stuff out of it and stabilized the building so that it was in good shape just to remain. I have not really heard much else about the building since the 2000s. I do know from the historian that the building definitely qualifies to be an historic building. As I was talking to her, it suddenly dawned on her why I might be calling. She said to me, "You're not going to demolish that building, are you?" And I said, well, that's what the architects are recommending, is that we demolish that building to have extra space down at the bus garage. She said, well, if we can talk you into saving it, if you can keep it, we'll help you get it registered as a historic building and be able to keep it and whatever. It does belong to the school district. So basically, it's the board's decision as the top of the school district whether or not we want to demolish this building or we want to save it. If we want to save it, we will have help in getting the historical siting for it. I feel like the district we're the stewards of this building since it's on our property. And this is part of the past, that there are no more buildings like this anywhere in the area. And personally, I would like to see it preserved. I know it would cost us money, and I know it'll cause some hassles as far as the bus garage, the new plan. but I wanted to bring it to you because as you get older, you kind of start to realize how important some of the stuff from before your time was, and how important it is, in my opinion anyway, to help preserve that. So I wanted to share that information with you, and we'll have to decide, I guess, as a board, what we want to do with this.
And certainly we can put this on a future agenda for board discussion. As Pam has pointed out, we will not be able to fit the electric buses there unless Buke and Dahl comes down. There is no way to fit them there, as the architect pointed out. The other problem is at this point, the building is unsafe and not usable. So if we were to preserve it, recognizing what Pam has said this evening and put it on the historic register, we aren't going to be able to do something else with it. If we were to ask our community to help us restore that building for some purpose, it's not eligible for state aid because it is not going to be a building that houses students. So that would be a cost directly to our community, the entire cost. I don't think at this point anyone has been in the building recently. It became unsafe to be in there. And Drew, I say recently, but I want to say it's been a couple of years. I'd have to check that.
Yeah, we decommissioned it. It's not safe because of asbestos and everything else.
So we are happy to bring this back as a topic for discussion and do that. But I will tell you, we're going to need land for the electric buses if we don't do something, because we can't fit them in that space with Buke and Dahl there. So if the board would like, we can certainly put this on an agenda late September, early October for conversation.
Yeah, I feel they'd be worth the time to have that discussion.
Absolutely.
Does not push you.
Oh, it'd be interesting to see what Plan B would be, where the land would be. Because I have a feeling I know where it would be, potentially, if we didn't do that building, which way you guys would
Can't do
move.
it.
Well, we'd have to move towards that field, but you also know that the sewer system is in the field.
Right,
The septic, and the back end of that field is wetlands.
right.
So,
I do know that.
yes. Yes, of course you do, silly me.
With the map.
Is there
So I am not convinced without a pretty major overhaul, we could actually put buses there. The other thing to remember is that we are on a timeline right now, and although the governor is, it's apparently been said to her by many, many different parties that schools cannot make a 2035 conversion of all of their buses. She has not backed off of that yet. So I really think what we would be talking about is buying land, and I don't know where we would buy it.
Is there any possibility of moving that school?
We can certainly ask the architects, but my initial thought is no, because it's unstable now. That's why we're not in it.
Well, I know we did some work on it back in the 2000s to stabilize it, but that was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sure things have deteriorated some. It's just, every time I pass that building, it's just such a beautiful building and so different than anything else around. And I would just really like to see if there's some way we might be able to save it.
And I don't disagree, Pam. You might recall in 2005, I wanted to move to that building.
That's right, we do.
It wasn't a good idea then, and I am concerned about how we would fund this and the impact it's going to have on the other things that the state is going to require us to do. Because you can't go back behind the existing bus garage because of the wetlands.
Right.
Going sideways, as I say, would mean taking back Buke Field, which in theory we sold to someone for $1. And then the septic system for Buke is right there,
Right in the middle.
right in the middle.
Don't forget, I gotta bring a transformer in to run the power. That's where Buke's gotta come down. You can't
Correct.
put the transformer in there. So,
So really, I don't disagree, Pam. It's a beautiful building. I wish we had tried to save it in 2005 when I came. But I am not sure at this point. It will be millions of dollars. And again, that won't be April. And I don't know what we would do with the building at that point.
Yeah, I guess I don't envision us really using it for anything other than possibly, you know, a historic site for people to see and see what the old schoolhouses look like and, you know, that type of thing, but not as a district office or, which is what we considered at one point.
And I think about Green Corner School, which I believe costs around $80,000 to repair, which is open one afternoon a week, on Sundays, I believe. If it were going to be open to the public, that creates a whole other challenge because of its location and the fact that it's in a fenced facility.
Well, I just basically wanted to open the conversation, have people think about it. I didn't want to let the architects just go in and demolish the building.
Understood. I also, though, don't want to paint the architects as the bad guys here, because the reality is the architects are trying to help us meet the new law, and that's...
Yeah, how do we do away with EV?
How do we do away with EVs?
EV buses?
Yes, well, call our governor and have that conversation. I think the timeline is way too aggressive, but...
Do we still have stuff in that building, or is it empty?
Hmm?
Does that building have something
No,
in it?
there's
or is
nothing in it.
It's empty.
But yes, we will put it on the agenda for future discussion.
Beautiful, thank you. Any other business we'd like to discuss?
On a very slightly related note, I went to visit the one-room schoolhouse on Potter Road, and if you haven't been, I recommend you check it out. It's so neat. And the historian was there, and I spoke with her, and she said the books that are there were in the building when they went in there, and there's some original things. The map and the map scrolls are the originals, and it's just a really, really nice piece of history. She did point out that the outhouse is not the original. I don't know why or when that was replaced.
It was full.
But it's a nice it's a nice little spot. And I said, kind of only slightly joking to her, this would be a great place for a chamber music series, and she said, oh, absolutely, let's talk about it further. So we may or may not talk about that, but I just wanted to put that out there. Also, I would love to know where we are in the discussion about the phones, and I bring this up because there are other schools in the area that have established phone policies. I work in a school that has one, and I have to say it's absolutely divine. At Burnt Hills, at the middle school, they're now going to implement it at the high school. Their policy is pretty aggressive. I think your word of the day. They can't even have the phones on the bus because they were finding that was where some of the problems started. So I just was putting the conversation out there, and I wasn't surprised to hear that it was already in discussion. I was just curious because I did have a couple of parents say, I hope they don't try to do something once the school year has started.
No.
So there was curiosity if we're going to do something before the school year or wait until.
Not before the school year. Rick and his team, and I'll turn it over to him, are going to start working on this and prepare to bring us recommendations and discussions, but not till the end of the year, correct?
Correct. So one of our goals this year is to put together a cell phone task force comprised of faculty and staff. They're going to start meeting in September. They plan to meet monthly until the end of the school year to come up with a plan or policy which we think would be best for cell phone usage, but no change made to policy until the 25-26 school year. Give us time to get feedback from folks, that sort of thing.
Understandable. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent, thank you.
Which brings me to something else I want to ask about. This time of year, we're usually approving codes of conduct, which that basically gives our procedures for phones. And I haven't heard anything about that yet.
That will be the next board meeting. It would have been tonight, except we were supposed to be in board training.
Okay.
That ended up getting canceled. There won't be another board meeting this month.
Okay.
And so it will be, the hearings will be on the 12th. That's that first board meeting.
Okay, so the kids are going to start out the year without having their codes of conduct?
So just like board policy, it's in place till it's changed.
Okay.
And then finally, I just want to give you folks a hiring update because last board meeting, you approved my ability to recommend and hire prior to the start of the school year. So at this point, we have one business education position we're waiting on. We have a finalist candidate. We've made an offer. We're waiting to hear. We have one special education position that we're working to fill. And sadly, we had 2 more TA resignations this week. One of our TAs has found a teaching position. The other one's moving out of state. So we've got some teaching assistant positions we're going to be scrambling to fill. I'm not sure we will even fill them before the year actually kicks off. But that is certainly Mr. Arquette and my goal. So we are actually in pretty good shape right now.
Excellent. Any other business?
I just wanted to take a moment to commend Mrs. Satoli and her crew over at the extended school year and the learning leaps. For years, as a parent, we've utilized that. And it's always been amazing, well organized, but it was just a totally different feel this year, and I can't rave enough about the job they did over there. So
Great.
Super
So pleased to
smooth.
hear that.
Super
Thank you.
smooth over there. Drop off, pick up. It's so calm.
We like them.
All right, if no other business, we will move on to the second hearing and privilege of the floor. Again, if anyone would like to address the board, please state your name and address, adhere to our 5-minute policy, and refrain from using any staff or student by name.
All right, I'm Linda Kalasinski, 332 Rockland Road. I'm a sub here, a substitute. I was starting my 17th year of subbing. I'm mainly in the middle school. I was the 3 years of COVID, and then this past, before that, I bopped back and forth between middle school and high school. This past year, I was able to go back and forth. One of those years, I was a building sub at the middle school. But sustainably, your pay for subs is not up to par. My son works at Price Chopper. He's making almost the same amount as I am. Okay, I make $108 because I've been here for so long, a day. That's not a lot. My husband wants me to quit and get a real job. I love subbing. I like I like the kids. I have a rapport with them. I know both middle school and high school. I know the rules. I know where things are. I know the way of how things work. And the teachers feel comfortable when I'm here. And I do much better when you are middle school and high school kids, not adults, talking in front of you. But I want you to think about, I don't know how many other subs you've had for 17 years, okay? Eventually, I'm turning 59 this year. Eventually I'm gonna age out because it's gonna just get too much. But I'm just putting my 2 cents in there that more money would be nice. Okay, so.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board tonight? Okay. All right, we will close the second hearing and privilege of the floor, and we will take a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Kimmy. And a second?
second.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of the end of the year. We'll see you in September.